Have you ever noticed your mind creating entire scenarios that never actually happen? Maybe you imagine a conversation before it even takes place, or replay something from the past, changing every detail in your head. Sometimes you win arguments that never occurred. Sometimes you prepare for situations that may never exist. And before you realize it, your mind has already lived through a whole story that reality never wrote. This strange habit has a name in psychology: mental simulation. And for people who tend to overthink, it can quietly shape how they see the world. Before we go deeper into the psychology behind this habit, if these kinds of insights resonate with you, feel free to like and subscribe. Now let's take a closer look at what's actually happening inside the mind. 1. The brain as a quiet simulator. The human mind rarely stays completely still, even in moments of silence. When nothing urgent is happening, the brain continues to work quietly in the background. Psychologists often describe the brain as a kind of prediction system. It does not simply react to the present. Instead, it constantly tries to imagine what might happen next. This ability is known as mental simulation. It is the mind's way of creating situations internally before they exist in reality. You might imagine a future conversation. You might replay a moment from the past and wonder how it could have gone differently. These scenes may never actually happen, but in the mind, they can feel detailed and surprisingly real. In many ways, the brain behaves like a quiet simulator, exploring possibilities long before reality unfolds. 2. Why some minds simulate more than others. Not everyone experiences this mental process in the same way. For some people, imagined scenarios appear only occasionally. For others, the mind seems to generate them much more frequently. This pattern is often associated with what we call overthinking. Overthinking does not simply mean worrying all the time. In many cases, it reflects a mind that naturally analyzes situations in greater depth. The brain examines possibilities, compares outcomes, and explores different paths. Because of this, the mind may generate multiple imagined scenarios, almost like quiet rehearsals for events that have not yet occurred. Instead of waiting for reality to arrive, the brain explores different versions of it in advance. For people who tend to think deeply about social situations or decisions, these mental simulations can appear naturally and often without conscious effort. 3. The mind trying to understand other people. A large number of imagined scenarios involve social situations. A conversation that might happen tomorrow. A disagreement that could appear unexpectedly. A moment when something important might be said. Human life is deeply shaped by relationships and communication. Because of this, the brain spends a great deal of energy trying to understand how other people might react. Inside imagined conversations, the mind explores possibilities. What if they respond calmly? What if they misunderstand the message? What if the conversation moves in an unexpected direction? These simulations allow the brain to explore social dynamics before they happen in real life. In uncertain situations, the mind attempts to predict reactions, emotions, and possible outcomes. Even though the scene is imagined, the brain is actively trying to understand the complexity of human interaction. 4. When simulation turns into repetition. Sometimes the same scenario returns again and again. A conversation is replayed in the mind, then the words change slightly. Then the situation is imagined in another version. Psychologists often call this pattern rumination. It occurs when the brain continues to process something that feels unresolved or unclear. From the inside, it may feel like the mind is circling around the same thought repeatedly. But cognitively, the brain is still performing its natural function, trying to understand the situation from multiple perspectives. It may examine what was said, what was meant, and what could have been different. The repetition often reflects the brain's attempt to create clarity in situations that carry emotional meaning. 5. Why imagined situations feel so real. One of the most surprising aspects of mental simulation is how real it can feel. Even when a situation exists only in imagination, the brain can still respond emotionally. Research in neuroscience shows that imagining an event can activate many of the same brain systems involved in real experiences. Because of this, imagined conversations may feel tense, exciting, or emotionally intense. The brain is not simply creating random images. It is actively engaging with possible realities. When a scenario appears in the mind, the brain evaluates it almost as if it were preparing for a real experience. This is why imagined arguments can feel draining, or why a future conversation can feel vivid long before it actually happens. 6. The cognitive depth behind overthinking. Although overthinking is often described as a negative habit, the mental processes behind it can reveal something deeper. People who frequently imagine scenarios often demonstrate strong imagination and analytical thinking. Their minds naturally explore patterns and outcomes. Instead of reacting only to what is happening now, the brain examines how events might unfold in different ways. This kind of thinking is closely connected to planning, creativity, and strategic thinking. The mind is not simply reacting to events. It is building internal models of how the world might work. Small actions are imagined, and their potential consequences are explored. In this way, the same mental processes that create imagined scenarios can also support deeper reflection and complex problem solving. 7. Living between reality and possibility. For people who often imagine scenarios, everyday life can sometimes feel layered. One layer is the present moment, the events that are actually happening around them. The other layer exists quietly inside the mind, a stream of possibilities that may never happen. A future conversation may appear briefly in thought. A different version of the past may surface. A hypothetical moment may unfold internally. From the outside, nothing seems different. But inside, the mind continues its quiet work, observing, predicting, comparing, and simulating. Through this process, the human brain reveals one of its most remarkable abilities. Long before reality chooses a single outcome, the mind has already imagined countless possibilities. Sometimes the mind doesn't just live in the present. It quietly explores the future, replays the past, and imagines the countless ways life could unfold. Entire conversations appear in the mind, situations that may never happen, moments that exist only in thought. But this doesn't mean the mind is broken. In many cases, it simply means the mind is trying to understand the world more deeply than it appears on the surface. Some people move through life reacting to what happens. Others spend more time exploring what could happen, and in that quiet space between imagination and reality, the mind continues doing what it has always done, observing, predicting, and trying to make sense of human behavior. If these hidden patterns of the mind resonate with you, you might find many more of them on this channel. And if you enjoy exploring the psychology behind everyday thoughts and behaviors, consider subscribing, because the human mind still holds many mysteries left to uncover.